Power Motion Picnic Hour. Sometimes a special guest. Say your name, special guest.
Chadd Cosse.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Power Motion Picnic Hour. As always, I'm your host, Dave, and as always, alongside me is
Trevor.
Oh, Trevor, what's going on? How are you?
I am doing well.
Oh,
How are you,
great.
Dave?
I'm doing great. Having a good time, running, living life.
Yeah, coming off a pretty long weekend running.
Yep. I left the country. I did some running abroad. Ran around Spain a little bit, and then came home and did some running back in New York City. How about you?
Yeah. Well, you were in Spain. I went down to New York and ran for you
Nice.
for a couple days, and then got back up here and ran some more.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome. Running in Spain was amazing. I went for a run along the coast in Cadiz.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
A 10K. It was like probably one of the, not the longest run, but maybe one of the prettiest runs I've ever gone on in my life.
That's awesome. That's incredible. I love when you get those highly memorable,
Yeah.
unique runs.
And I had been in Sevilla for a few days before going to Cadiz, and Sevilla is so mind-blowingly hot. It's like insane. Like the siestas there are like medically necessary, like there's a doctor making everybody go take a nap. But then Cadiz was just like, in like 70 degrees and on the coast with a little breeze. So it was like amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. If anyone finds themselves there or has the opportunity to go, do it.
Do that run. Yeah.
And then back here on the pod, what an exciting week it was. We just had an amazing conversation with Chadd.
Yeah, thanks so much to Chadd for coming on. Cool connection that we actually made through a listener. So as the special guest and listener sort of community expands, we get a lot of, ever more interesting connections.
And we're always learning, as we always say, from our listeners who are far more knowledgeable than us about running, but they even seem more knowledgeable about who would be a good special guest on the podcast.
Yeah. So a real treat. Should we jump right to it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go there now. This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour. Hey, let's do the part that we always forget to do. We like to ask our guests to introduce themselves, and they can just say their name if they like, and they can also give a short bio or anything else they'd like to take this opportunity to say.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I'm Chadd Cosse. I was born in Michigan. You can see, big Detroit Lions fan. Living in New York now. Been in New York for the last 7 years. Got into ultra running in COVID, so about 4 years ago or so, and been going longer and longer. So fell in love with the 200-mile distance, and that's kind of what I've been hooked on for the last few years.
That's awesome. And were you into trail running before, or when you say you got into it in COVID, what was it, just getting out and going longer and longer, or was it also the terrain, or what was sort of the progression?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get into running until I moved to New York. So after college, played basketball a lot, played like some other sports. That was kind of tough to keep up with a job, just the team sport thing and the joining leagues and scheduling. So the running was great because it lets you kind of fit it in when you could. You could still take it as serious as you wanted. You could train for certain events and like track your progress. So I just started with just road running, marathons, did a couple marathons, New York, LA, a few times, a couple halves. And then I tried to transition to the Ironman in COVID. The Ironman got canceled that I was training for. Then I had a buddy suggest, you want to try this ultra in South Carolina, this like looped ultra. And I was kind of bummed out. I'd spent a year training for this Ironman. So I said, well, I got some fitness. Why not? Let me just give it a shot. And then the rest is history, I guess. It just kind of spiraled from there, just a community of like the ultra guys and just seeing what's possible to do from a distance perspective. And that kind of hooked me.
Hells yeah. Yeah, I looked up some of your times. You got some big distances and and some good
Yeah.
times.
Oh,
I
appreciate
guess
that.
It's kind of it's funny how you went from having to avoid the time commitment of a basketball league, presumably maybe a couple nights a week, a couple hours at a time, to
yeah.
running for exceptionally long time periods, like up to days.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really like the basketball. It was there's a lot of other factors that kind of influence your like the quality of your game or even just playing around. Like people would not show up, you would forfeit, and there's nothing you could really do
Yeah.
about it. Or most of the games were really just kind of organized, just pick up, like kind of sloppy. Like with friends, it was a good time, but I didn't really feel like I was getting any better. I was like, I felt like with the running, I really liked being able to see like improvements and being able to track progress and like shoot for specific goals and things like that, which I like that in basketball as growing up. You can because
Yeah.
you can really improve when it's a little more organized, and that kind of lost me when I came to the city.
Yeah, I had that same experience like 2 years ago, making my triumphant return to basketball. First, first even any kind of organized basketball since college, and I joined it was like a free agent team, where they put you all
Yeah.
together.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, we forfeited a ton of games, and even when we did play, the guys were all great. They were all really cool, but it was just like the most unappealing kind of basketball I've ever played.
It's just yeah, it's tough because you have to
Yeah,
pay, and then if
yeah,
you forfeit, you got to pay the other team sometimes, and it's just like, oh man, this
yeah.
is rough.
It was no good. Pickup was better because at least like if you got a team you
Yeah,
don't like, you'll be on a different team next game.
yeah.
It's
Honestly, the pickup was better than the league, I
Yeah.
would say.
And
it's
anyway, I haven't played again
it's
since.
it is pretty it's pretty hard to believe you found worse basketball than our freshman year intramural
I,
showing as the eighths.
I loved our college intramural team. It wasn't good
we,
basketball either.
we did have the best headbands out there.
We had matching headbands. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I was big intramural. I played club basketball, and just,
Cool.
that was great. I mean, that was just what you wanted to
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yours is probably a little bit more serious than ours.
Maybe a little, but maybe a little.
maybe just a tad.
I think I preferred of the college intramural, I preferred the co-ed basketball team I was on.
Mm.
Because
Those are fun.
yeah, because our captain on that one, she was a much more serious basketball mind, and had been a 4-year varsity, and she'd even done a little
Okay.
yeah, done a little coaching even. I think like maybe when she was, I don't know, a senior, she might have coached some eighth graders. So she was better to play for than playing for me and whoever else was trying to
Yeah.
call things out on our men's team.
Yeah. Put her on point and just
Yeah.
set us up to make stupid decisions, but do her best to corral them.
I need someone who knows more than me about basketball to yell at me. But
Man, I hear
So
that. Yeah.
I've got like this is maybe more of a like I'm sure we'll get off on tangents about jazz music to run to and stuff like that.
Hopefully.
Like we usually do, but I am curious how like if you think basketball translate like how does that translate sort of the physical aspect to running? Because I'd imagine especially for trail running, there's like some goodness probably in the side to side and all like the quick foot movements and everything. I'm just yeah, or maybe that's a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe there's something there. I mean, it's tough though. I mean, it's not much
No
there.
is
I
no is
think
a good answer too. You
yeah, I
can say
mean,
no.
maybe just generally like I guess you could say across sports, just like the discipline and the routine of like
Yeah.
whether it's like
Yeah.
basketball or anything else. That's where it kind of started for me, just like the routine and the regimen and the practice and the training and maybe even the repetition of just kind of being comfortable with doing the same kind of long runs, training runs,
Yeah.
just it's just something you have to do. So I would say that, but maybe that's true for other sports, but that's probably one of the key takeaways that I would take with me. But it's obviously very different going from a team sport to just kind of an individual endeavor, sufferfest. It's
Yeah.
just a
You guys,
little different.
you guys just reminded me of when I came back to about that basketball team 2 years ago. I had been running a ton, and I had been doing a ton of COVID, Manhattan running around the island kind of stuff, along the river. But anyway, when I joined that basketball team, I was totally gassed playing basketball, like just doing all that sprinting,
Yeah, it's
and
different.
yeah, it's really like no one had been making me do suicides or anything, right? Like during my COVID running. So
Yeah.
it was shocking, even waking up the day after the first game, how sore I was.
I think fitness is one thing. I think it's a whole different set of muscles too, because running is so repetitive and you're just like generally just sort of hitting the same general stuff. But then in basketball, you have to go, backwards and sideways and
Yeah.
That's true.
quick stops.
Lot more variation in the movements.
I think if
like, I haven't jumped like as high as I can in years.
Oh God.
Yeah. I think if I were to try to go back to like playing basketball now, I'd be high risk for injury.
High risk. Yeah, I think my knee might explode if I made any lateral movements.
Yeah.
When I started playing in this league 2 years ago, and then like had been maybe describing some of it to my wife and girlfriend at the time, and of how I was playing, and anyway, then we were at a bar like the next night, and a game was on TV, and I pointed at someone on the TV. I'm like, "That's what I look like when I play," and it was JaVale McGee, but I'm like a foot shorter than JaVale McGee. But I have
Fail
that
McGee.
game, yeah. Which is not the game I had. That's not the game I had as a young man.
That would have taken you far if you had that game.
Yeah, if I had the game and the height, I would have been all right. But anyway, I've enjoyed the basketball tangent, but I did look up. I don't know much about like some of these longer races. Trevor knows them all really well, but I did look up Cocodona.
Yeah, that's
And
that's quite the race.
yeah, right. And so you just completed it. Was that last month?
Yeah, that was in May. That was my second time out there. And yeah, I mean, brutal race. I don't know how much you know about it, but yeah, it's in Arizona. It's 250 miles. It's kind of the terrain is very Arizona-like, very deserty. Sections are like super exposed. Some stuff you get more under the mountains, and it can get super cold, especially at the evening. So big temperature swings. Um, that's probably the hardest thing to contend with. The huge temperature swing, especially if you're like I do a lot of these just solo, so like you carry a lot of like cold gear and you're carrying a pack and you're taking these jackets off, you're stuffing them in your bag, you got like sleeping stuff with you. So dealing with a lot of those temperature swings just over multiple days, just trying to keep moving, just creates its own little mini challenge within it. But
Yeah.
great race, great setup. Aravaipa puts it on. They do a great job. Volunteers are make it possible.
What was your time?
108 hours second time around. I mean, it's funny because first year I did 109. That was a brutal year. And the second year I was like, all right, I feel like I can get under 100. And I was moving pretty good towards the end. Maybe about a half marathon to go, and I just like fall asleep. I was just so tired. I fell asleep for like 9 hours, just like 13 miles for the finish. And I wake up, I was like, man, I just completely ruined my like goal time. I was just like,
it's one hell of a bonk.
Text messages. Yeah, they're like, oh, Chadd, you're so close. Half marathon to go. Like, are you all right? Because my pace graph is just flatlined for like 8 hours, and so I just wake up super confused, middle of the day. I'm bundled up in all this cold gear, and it's the middle of the day. I'm sweating. I just throw all my jackets off, and I just have to climb this mountain and finish. And it's just like, so it was a lot of that, a lot of lows, some highs, and you just kind of grit through it. But yeah, it's always something that goes wrong and something that happens.
That's part of the fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's what, some of our other guests, special guests that have done longer distances have talked about how it's, the whole thing is like so much of it is just the troubleshooting on the spot. And, people talk about how, if this went differently or that went differently, but that's sort of like a big part of it. Right. But, I guess in your case, it's like if you hadn't taken that 9-hour nap, you would have hit your goal time.
Oh yeah, there's little things here and there. Like for people who are solo without any crew, you just look back and you see all these like 15 minutes here at the aid station, like 30 minutes there. You could have saved time. So there's like things around the edges. You just try not to get too too into it. You'll like drive
Yeah.
yourself crazy. But
Yeah.
I'm doing a race coming up in October, and like gonna bring some buddies out. So hopefully to
Nice.
help solve some of the logistical and pacing
Yeah.
stuff around the fringes. So we'll see how that goes. But
How long is that
yeah,
one? Is that
that's
250?
240. It's
Oh.
Moab. I don't know if it's one of the
Yeah,
destination
yeah.
trail. Yeah. So it's the last one of the destination trail races that I yet
That's
to do.
awesome.
So looking forward to it. I hear good things about Moab. Never been out there though.
Sounds cool.
It's one of those places, like everybody talks about it being one of the most beautiful places. I've never been,
Oh
but
yeah.
a lot of people
Yeah,
say
I
that.
feel like it's another planet. I was like, oh man.
Yeah,
Did you
that would
see
be amazing.
when I was just researching Cocodona at first? I googled like what is Cocodona? but when I was researching and reading up about it, did you see or meet? There was like a 17-year-old kid who came in like
Yeah.
yeah.
He has he has your last name.
That's right.
So
So I
is
was like, oh, your
Yeah.
long lost cousin?
Yeah, he's from New Hampshire too.
And yeah,
Oh, really?
do you know
Yeah.
him? Are you related to him, Trevor?
No.
Oh.
No.
No,
Wait, does
yeah,
he have my
'cause
last name or my first name? I thought it was
last name.
Last name. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think it's some Brody. Something.
Brody.
Yeah,
Brody.
Brody Chisholm came in like eighth.
Well,
17
yeah.
years
'Cause,
old.
I mean, his family, they're like a bunch of through hikers. Like he has like thousands
Yeah.
of miles of through hiking already, like 5,000-6,000 miles of through hiking, which is basically what these races are. If you can just clip a 18-minute mile for the whole race, you're
Mhm.
in the top 10. Like you're in the top 10. I mean, and that's what most of these people are doing. I mean, there's obviously a lot of running. Probably if you're in the top 10, 5, you're like running maybe not half of it, maybe half the race,
Mhm.
75%.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like climbing and like hiking and things like that, just because it's just so long. And there's obviously a lot of stopping, like at aid stations, whether you're maybe
Mhm.
sleeping here and there. But yeah, like a lot of these through hikers, they just can go. They can just go steady with a pack on, and they just know how to take care of their feet. And
Mhm.
So I was researching this kind of last second, and I meant to, but didn't get around to Googling what is through hiking. So what is that?
I mean, it's just like if you're hiking for more than like a day, like multiple days just
Okay.
on the trail, it's just like people who have those like FKT hikes on like the Pacific Crest Trail or like,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
some of those like the trails that are like thousands of miles. Not really maybe some of the super fast FKTs that are
Okay.
maybe like 100-mile sections, but those people where it's a lot of just hiking. So yeah, a lot of like the guy who got second place last year, he was just a through hiker as well.
Okay.
And yeah, that's a skill. If you can walk at a 15-14 minute mile, that's some people are walking up like
Yeah.
they're like gliding.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can walk more and sleep less, right?
Yeah.
We had the world record holder in the race walking mile on this podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the time?
Oh, now I'm trying to remember it. Is it
Under
5:31?
5?
It's
It can't
like
be
5:36
1, right?
or 5:31.
Oh, but yeah, it's faster than I run. Faster than I run a mile.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
pretty
that-
intense.
5:36.
I mean, it's
And
the
he-
world record, so but still.
You just have to have one foot on the ground at all times. Is that?
That's I think the main rule. Although he said it's like they're not. You have to be. You can't be like. They'll give a little bit of leniency as long as you're not using like both feet being off like as an advantage, right? If you're doing like this the proper stride or whatever. I think there's a lot of nuances to race walking that
Yeah.
Tom told us about, and
this was a long time ago. Now I've completely forgotten everything we learned.
yeah, good reminder to go back and listen to that episode again.
Yeah, I don't know what number episode that was, but
Yeah, you guys got a lot of episodes. I was looking back. I was like, wow. I was trying to catch up. Like, I don't have enough time to catch up on all of these.
I think this is episode 42 or 3.
Okay.
Do we have enough
Something like that.
content to fill a whole Cocodona effort? I wonder at this point.
Oh,
Well, you might.
well, what's the time for maybe for like the Cocodona winner? What time wins that race?
60 hours.
Wow.
We're not there yet, but we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there soon. I guess by next race, right? Because next one will be next May. We'll hopefully,
Exactly.
if all goes according to plan, we'll have enough to power someone to victory.
Yeah, yeah. And Cole Crosby was there too, another special guest.
Oh yeah, yeah. I did
Yeah,
another race with him in New York, on Long Island.
yeah,
Like a Tesla, the Tesla Hertz, like
yeah.
150 miler. Yeah. So he took
Oh,
that one
cool.
down too. So he's, yeah, obviously super strong. I think he might have DNF Cocodona this year. He had a rough go at it, but he's obviously, yeah. That's the thing about these races. Like
Early.
you never know. It's just like
Yeah.
you can
It
just go
sounded
down.
early,
Yeah.
mile 60 or something.
I can't even imagine. I was doing a 4 mile race in Central Park 2 days ago. And things started going bad halfway through the race.
He went sideways.
Yeah, and I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. I wasn't sure I was gonna make it. It was hot. It's like we said, it's been really hot.
Yeah. Oh, Saturday. Oh, yes, Saturday was
Yeah.
no
Or was it,
fun.
I don't know if it was Saturday or I think it was Sunday. No, I think it was Sunday, but it was hot both days. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
gross. Even at the race was at 8 in the morning and it was gross.
Yeah. I was going to say when I when I employed the not sleeping and, you know, 15 to 18-minute mile strategy at my last race, which was only a 25 miler, and this happened at like mile 17 or 18. Did not turn out so well.
Wait, so Chad, how many times and for how long did you sleep at this Cocodona?
I mean, before that last 8 hour mistake, I was probably sleeping. I slept the first time at for like an hour at mile like 80, so that was after like about 25 hours. And then I took a lot of series of like 5 to 10 minute trail naps.
Yeah.
So I probably did that a dozen times or so,
Okay.
just throughout the course of the next couple nights. So not long. Maybe it was a couple 3 hours before that.
Wow.
Before that point, maybe a little more.
Do you
But
think that?
I had wanted to sleep a little more,
Yeah.
but it's always just like oh man, I got to keep moving. Like,
Oh, sure.
and then it just hits you, and you're like, oh, this isn't good. You start just hallucinating. You're like, you're
Oh, nice.
lost. You just don't know where you are. Then that's what happened. You just kind of like drop down. Like, oh, I'm so tired. Let me just take a quick nap. You're not really sure where you're at, and then you wake up. You're like, oh man,
That's wild.
I'm
Yeah.
at the race.
Oh, you're right. I know where I am. Yeah, sleeping in the race. Every ultra runner mentions who's hallucinating, although we do sometimes have to ask about it, but everyone does. It seems like.
Oh yeah, it seems to be pretty shared among not everyone, but yeah, for me definitely in the longer race. If it's over 2 days,
Yeah.
2 nights, yeah, it's gonna happen.
I feel like I think we first heard about it as a phenomenon around mile 80, right, Trevor?
Yeah, I think that's where
That's where it
popular
kicks in.
runner Jim Pergolesi hit it, I think.
Yeah,
But
That's not a confirmed hallucination though. He actually there's
oh,
no
that's right.
it
That's
can't be
right.
it can't be verified. He
Oh
might
yeah.
yeah,
he might have run behind an owl for several miles.
I
yeah.
think, and Jeff Colt clarified for him that it was actually real. At
Jeff said it
least
was real.
he likes to think so. Yeah.
Nice.
Um,
I like that.
yeah. So Chad, how did you train for this from New York?
Yeah, it's obviously pretty tough to, especially for the vert. It's, I mean, it's a mix of obviously just a lot of just road miles. Like most of my miles, especially just leading up to the race, are just in Manhattan, just like around loops of Manhattan, Central Park, stuff like that. And then I'll do like a lot of treadmill focus kind of incline work. So just 18% on the treadmill for like an hour or two
Oh,
at
Mhm.
like 3 miles an hour, three and a half, 4 miles an
Nice.
hour, which is pretty rough. I mean, I would rather run for like 6 hours and do that for an
wow.
hour and a half.
Are people at the gym like,
But
what is that dude doing?
well, yeah, because I'm just in a pile of sweat within 20 minutes. Like I did that
Yeah.
this morning, and I'm like, there's
Who's
nothing you
that?
can do. I got like a beach towel out there. It's like this, you can't help it.
Oh
But
yeah.
so it's a lot of that to do the vert, some stairmaster, and
Stairmaster.
then I'll get like a zip car in the weeks leading up to a big race and go to like upstate to some trails
Mm.
to the extent that I can, like on the weekend.
Mhm.
So either like the Highlands, I spent like maybe 3 or 4 weekends up there, kind of like Beacon,
Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
like the Long Path Trail up on like on the GW. So I would like do some stuff where I would like go out to Nyack, get on the Long Path Trail, and run back to the city. Just being on the trail and just getting more used to that. Even though there's not a lot of climbing on the Long Path Trail in New York.
Yeah.
But it's more just like the technical footing aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll do occasional just like trail races, like as tune-ups. Like I'm doing one just in a couple weeks, just like in upstate New York, like a 60K. And then I'm gonna do like a hiking, like an overnight hiking,
Which one?
3 days.
What's the 60K?
It's called the Red Wing Trail
All right.
Challenge. Yeah, I think it's in like Grangeville. Small race. I did it last
Cool.
year. Nice couple loops.
Nice.
Sounds cool. I was on the treadmill today in the gym and running with a couple of the trainers who work there actually, and we were talking about marathon training and talking about training in Central Park, which is like a pretty great place, you know.
Oh yeah.
I talk about on here often. I used it to train for LA, and it was great because you know that you do that loop multiple times. That's steeper than like the LA marathon and a lot of marathons.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I don't really like going out and back or doing like repeat loops. So I try to like make big loops of Manhattan, like where I can. So like I like to do like the perimeter Manhattan. That's like 50K. So I'll do that like occasionally if I want to get some more distance, or like go up to the GW and down the Jersey side and like take the path back. That's like that can
Do you
be
run
like
up?
28.
Do you go from the lighthouse up to the GW? We were just talking about that today. Like
I did that one. That's a nice little route.
Because it's pretty flat by the river, but you get over there and there's that hill.
Oh yeah, it
like,
shoots straight up.
Yep. Right up. Yeah, totally. It totally
straight
rules.
Up. Yeah,
that's the flattest run. Steep. Yeah, it's the flattest run you've ever done in your life, and then there's like a mountain. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy because the perimeter it's only 600 feet of vert and 30 miles. That's New York. I mean, you got to really try to find some hills. Like I did this thing where I would just do like you do Harlem Hill repeats, but even that, it's not that steep. It's like 100 feet maybe.
Yeah, it's not for long, right? There's like short steep hills there.
Yeah, so if you're really trying to get like a run with like 2,000 feet, you just got to really do it on the treadmill, which is that's kind of what I've found. And you can get 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet on the treadmill if you just stick it on the incline and just go.
Max it out.
Max it out.
Walking really hard, sweating everywhere.
Just spraying down the other treadmills to your left and right.
Yeah. Or the Stairmaster, because for a while, a few years ago, I just got really into the Stairmaster. It's just like a thing. It's just like a recreational activity, not training for anything. Just like I just would do it. It became a big. I do it every now and then still, but like if you do that all the time, like you could start really cooking.
Yeah, you can't help but get stronger if you're just sitting on the Stairmaster.
I was like, I remember when I've been doing the Stairmaster a ton, and then I like saw myself in a mirror in shorts walking down a flight of stairs, and I was like, Jesus, look at my quads. That's all Stairmaster. But I'm sure I've lost that by now.
I think, well, we're not quite at the point where Dave reminds us that there's not a lot of time yet, but I think
although this episode has been flying by, I just noticed by looking at the clock.
We've been going cooking fast. The Manhattan Loop is an FKT though. I did notice that.
Oh, is it?
You should throw down.
It's probably pretty fast though. What is it like?
I don't know.
50K. It's probably got to be like 3 hours and change probably.
I wonder. We have a good friend of the pod who she's doing the Pacific Crest Trail right now, and she actually we did a mile event last summer, and she won our female category. And I remember she did that Manhattan Loop like with all her pack on and everything, like to train for the Pacific Crest Trail. I think that was maybe the last thing she did before leaving. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a great loop. I mean, it's a good way to see parts of the city like Manhattan you just never will see, like up in Inwood if you're from lower Manhattan like me, like places up there, like it's good
you can get out. You can stitch that together without really dealing with lights, right?
Oh yeah,
you can do it pretty continuous. Yeah,
really, it's really good. Once you get kind of back down on, because I go clockwise, and if you coming back down the east side, you kind of slicing through the city a bit with some lights, but you can kind of stick to the edges and be pretty safe.
Yeah.
It's amazing how far up Manhattan goes on the west side. It's totally
crazy.
Yeah, I take the one train up there sometimes, visit my uncle in the Bronx, and it's like, yeah, it's just, geez,
it keeps going.
it keeps going. It's totally crazy.
When I'm in New York, I'll run along the river, and I often like to venture out onto that new, I don't know how new it is anymore, but Little Island,
Yeah.
which is a nice
Yeah.
little ramp up. So maybe you could do an FKT variation that includes Little Island.
That's right. It should include Little Island.
Yeah, they set a new standard.
Set a new standard. Yeah.
When I'm running there and it's like not too crowded and full of tourists, I'll run up Little Island, and and I'll just include it, just to add the tiny
It's
bit
a
of
nice
elevation.
It's a nice little
Yeah.
elevation. Yeah.
But sometimes I'll like miscalculate it, and so I'll say, oh, there's not too many people up there, and then I'll run it, and like there'll be tons of tourists. I'll be
They're
like,
hiding. They pop out of the bushes.
it doesn't look like there's that many, or it's like a Tuesday morning and the weather's not great, so I figure there aren't that many up there. But yeah, then you get up there and it's just full of.
They're there. They're always there.
I've got a pro tip for how to get out of that.
Yeah.
So if next time you're on Little Island, you notice in between some of the rails, there's these like drop downs with these like big rocks that I think are meant for people to sit on typically.
Okay. Yeah.
And assuming there's no tourists posted on the rocks, I actually saw them on the way up, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just like hit that on the way down, and you can cut through the switchback. And I did it and inspired some walkers to then head up the little like 5-foot rock sections.
The secret's out.
They're like, where did this guy come from?
So yeah, you're talking about running to the very top, which I do like to do sometimes, but I do very infrequently because that's really tight to go to the very top of Little Island. Yeah.
50 feet in like 0.2 miles or something.
Yeah. Well, and I just mean that it's just like a skinny little path. So if there's any tourists, you're like just pushing them out of the way.
Yeah.
But it is great.
But yeah, that 3-hour FKT holder did not, as far as we know, did not do Little Island. So we can barely count it.
Yeah.
I'm DQing it right now. I'm calling it on the air. The FKT has been vacated, so whoever can do it next is the official. Right. Yeah, any of us can get there. Even if I can get there with my whatever slow time I would do it in, I could hold it briefly.
If anybody knows anybody at the FKT website, they should let them know we've declared.
Yeah. Okay. Before we do run low on time, I wanted to ask Chadd something I learned during my research, which was I believe you played in high school jazz band. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, I did. I haven't played the sax in probably since then, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I played high school jazz band too.
Yeah.
I like when we find similar backgrounds with people on the show and similar experiences to us.
What instrument did you
I played drums.
Okay. Yeah, I was a sax guy.
Were you tenor, alto?
Alto sax.
Alto, cool. Like Ornette Coleman or something. Do you ever run to jazz? Like in your headphones?
I don't run to jazz, but I'll run to like almost any other like genre. Like it doesn't have to be like fast paced. I'll run to like I like oldies. So I'll run to like oldies music. Cool. And I guess like maybe there's some jazz roped up into that, but yeah, for me it's just like I'm trying to find stuff to just pass the time, honestly, entertainment more so than just like pump up songs.
That's the two options, either pump up or distraction, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I would listen to jazz when I run for sure.
I meant to try that today, actually, when I was thinking about this, and then I didn't actually run to any jazz today. I ran 10 miles on the treadmill, but I didn't put on any jazz. Yeah.
More power to you on the tread 10 miles. Wow.
Well, I had the people to talk to, and then eventually they left. and then I put on a podcast. It was and then I put on some ska. I like to run to ska.
Yeah.
If you were I think you're a little bit younger, but if you were my age and playing saxophone in the jazz band, somebody might have drafted you into a ska band in high school. But that was very of the era kind of thing. But yeah,
I did happen. I don't listen to jazz often on runs, but I do have a jazz running playlist that I did listen to this morning. And
wow!
Every time I do it, I think it's really nice, and I should do it more.
Yeah. Wait, Chadd, do you like jazz? And then did you join jazz band because you like jazz, or did jazz band get you into jazz?
I do like jazz. I always liked the sound of the saxophone.
Yeah.
Which is why I got into jazz band,
Okay.
like jazz band.
Yeah.
But I always liked something about like the sound of the sax. I was like, I want to play that.
That's
And
cool.
then I mainly I played it maybe like high school,
Okay.
8th grade to like senior year. And then you get to college, and it's just kind of really tough to be blowing the sax in your dorm room. So you just something's kind of got to give. All the hobbies you pick up over the
Yeah.
years, different
Yeah.
sports and extracurriculars, and that kind of fell to the wayside. But
Everything falls away and it's just running. All you're doing, all that's left is running.
yeah, all that's left
Essentially.
is running. Work and run.
Work and
That's
running.
pretty much my life these
Yeah.
days.
You do read a lot though too. I noticed.
Oh yeah. That has also kind of it has definitely declined the longer, the more mileage per year I do. But yeah, I try to read not as much as I used to, but I'll probably read maybe somewhere around like 15 books this year, probably.
Nice. Probably what my current year is looking like too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's when you're running some of these bigger weeks, it's just the hours they
Yeah.
take up.
There's
Yeah,
no time between between
What-
250-mile runs and 9-hour dirt naps.
Yeah.
where are you gonna squeeze in a book?
When you're not running, you're just too tired to do anything else. Recovering.
Okay, well, now is the time where I'm gonna say we're running low on time. So
yeah.
so Chadd, we wanted to give you the opportunity. Is there anything you wanted to say, or any closing thoughts, or anything you wanted to inform us and our listening community?
No, I mean, I would say if anyone out there is like, a lot of people are like, oh, 200 milers, I don't think I can do it. You definitely can do it. I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it seems pretty intense just on the surface of it,
Yeah.
but the training for it isn't as daunting as the race. Obviously, the race is a lot harder than the training, but it's not as if you need to have run like 175-mile training race and do all these crazy things. But I'd say it's one of those things like try out a 100-miler, try out a 200-miler, and just see how it goes. Don't like just rule it out for yourself. It is kind of a crazy thing, but I don't know, it's definitely worth it. And like once you kind of dip your foot there, it's tough to turn back. So tread lightly, but I definitely would recommend people at least dip their foot in ultras. Maybe not 200s to start, but
Yeah.
it's definitely life changing.
You're a fantastic spokesperson for the sport, though I am curious how many people have you convinced to get into 200-mile races so far?
200s? I'm at 0 for 200s, but I've got some people in the ultras.
I love that.
A couple.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm zero converts lifetime to 200s, but it's still young.
I'm just
we'll send them this episode. They'll turn them on.
Well, listen to that, because I feel like I could be converted to that, but I was putting myself in the shoes of some of our listeners who are skeptical about the idea of running a marathon. So I like just upping the ante on them and being like, why not just keep running, until you fall asleep.
Yeah. You can, exactly. You can eat more while you're running. You can sleep. You can walk.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about hitting your split and the 10K mark, terminating your whole race.
Oh yeah.
You getting your steps in. Definitely get your steps in if you run one of those.
You get your steps in, that's for sure. Yeah, you definitely are getting your 20,000 steps per day.
I love it. Oh, Chadd, thank you so much for coming out and joining us. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this was awesome.
Thanks so much, Chadd.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour. Thanks so much, Chadd. That was awesome. Thanks for joining us. What a fun talk.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, Chadd.
Covered a lot of good topics that we don't even always get into here on the pod.
No, yeah, I feel like quite a comprehensive range of all of our favorite topics, from running to hallucinations.
That's right. We're usually too busy talking about soccer to talk about basketball, and we're too busy talking about high school track team to be talking about jazz bands. So
yeah, good little basketball detour. That was nice. And some music mixed in, lighter than, I feel like we've had a fairly music heavy season 3. So it's nice to, only spend,
that's right.
The
appropriate amount of time,
10 minutes or so on music or whatever it was. Yeah.
That's the right amount of time to talk about music in a running podcast.
Yeah. I think it's why we're getting dinged lately on the the league tables for running podcasts.
Uh-oh, are we dropping?
I don't know.
I haven't looked.
I actually don't know where to look.
Well, whatever is happening, it probably is time to reach out to Evans Chabat again and ask him if he wants to come on the podcast.
Yeah, get that Evans bump we've been waiting for.
I bet.
So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I bet you he hasn't listened to music at all, ever. Whether he's running or whether he's cooking or driving, I don't. Yeah, nothing. Just silence.
Yeah, when he's not running, he's just thinking about running.
Yeah, he's just thinking about the sound of feet running on the road.
Yeah, not to sort of cast him too narrowly. I'm sure there's a lot of complexity and depth to his character, but
we're totally making this up.
Yeah, we're making it up,
and he can correct us when he comes on as special guest one day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to learn. I bet it's at least partly right, because you can't be that good at running without dedicating a lot of your time to running and thinking about running.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's great.
Yeah, no, it's a compliment.
Yeah.
So in other exciting news, I finished The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, our book club.
Amazing. What did you think?
Yeah, parts 2 and 3, I'd say part 2 was a little long, perhaps. The writing sort of style sort of got me through sections there, a bit like a longer run, sort of a little bit of a slog through certain sections there.
It's been so long that I barely remember, because I do remember that something happens. Like, I mean, it's all in he's running the race, but he's thinking something happens like 2/3 of the way through
the race.
Yeah, and I can't remember what it is. He decides not to win, right?
He talks about how he does all this thinking when he's running, and then we won't reveal too much, but he has like a certain sort of shocking thought, and then
well, I can't remember. That's what it is. There's a shocking thought, right? And I can't remember what it is now.
But he had already premeditated a certain outcome, and that's where sort of, I think, the young sort of angsty sort of rebellion, British youth angst movement kind of kicks in, because it was all like sort of out of spite, and I thought not very well thought out, or probably.
Well, I'm glad you read it. Did there was one part that confused me. At some point, does he like eat a piece of tree bark?
Yeah.
And I was like, I had to reread that sentence like 4 times. Like, what just happened?
In hindsight, there's no reason for him to eat the tree bark. And actually, the more we talk about that part, the more I think of the book or the short story fondly. Because the other funny thing about it, I find, is that, and I would fact check Alan Silito here, that 5 miles is not long distance running.
Oh, that's right.
Like, it's
middle
like
distance running.
It's a 5-mile race, always. And I guess that is a standard length in cross country, but when you have people like Chadd who run, for like 4 days straight and over 240 miles.
And so you don't think that's long distance? Because I think, like, when we were in high school, I thought about cross country. To me, that was long distance.
I mean, I guess it's technically accurate. I'm just saying,
not anymore.
To get the sort of the parallels that he's able to draw over the course of like just a few miles, it sort of approximates a very long distance effort. Like,
even I ran 10 miles today, and it was a casual thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just
that's all I'm saying.
What a book. I loved it. You didn't love it.
I didn't love it, but I liked it. I'm gonna say because of the tree bark eating segment, I enjoyed it, and I'd say it runs.
Yeah, it runs. I'm glad we officially finished, and now all our listeners, whether they finished or not, please submit your essays to the mailbag. We'll grade them and update next week the results of the grades.
Yeah, much like a long distance 5-mile run, this took us 3 episodes to cover the nearly 50-page short story.
Yeah, well, and maybe we can find out by next episode what our good friend Stuart Murdoch thought of it. hopefully he writes into the mailbag. We'll see. We'll find out whether he's a listener or not.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
Well, I love that. I love that we just had a second entry to the book club. So we'll find out what the next one is. We'll start cooking up some thoughts, because turns out this listening audience and even our special guests are avid readers.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. The podcast getting ever more literary by the episode.
I feel smarter already.
Yeah. I did have sort of a special announcement of sorts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or I guess it's really just an outbound mailbag, but
well, let's do it. I'm excited to hear.
All right. So we talk a lot about many of our past special guests, but one in particular, popular runner Jim Pergolesi gets a lot of mentions.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to special guest Tim Ball, who's somebody that we don't talk about nearly enough, but who once held the New Jersey mile record, and who was a great special guest and a huge supporter of the podcast.
That's a great point. I think we should check in and see what he's up to. And I think our listening audience is probably dying for an update.
We should have him back.
Have him back. Invite him on. See how his training's going.
See how the running's been. Yeah.
See how he's recovered from what were we dealing with a year ago? Nagging Achilles injuries? Is that what it was?
Yeah, and he was sort of
hamstrings. I don't know, something.
I think he was getting into some mellower running for a stretch, but to him, like, his definition of mellow, I guess, was probably different than ours. But
yeah, it's way longer than the long distance running we were just reading about.
right, yeah, and faster.
Yes. Okay, I love it. Yeah, let's do it. That's a week. That's a week in running. Mine was good. It was long. It was intercontinental. As you like to say, how continental? That's your catchphrase, right?
Something, yeah. It's like how international.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think
that was me. That's what I said that out loud while I was running along the coast in Cadiz.
Yeah,
I said how international.
Yeah, it's Marge from The Simpsons.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listening audience, fortissimo aged now, 40 through 42, growing up in front of our eyes. I think most people in that age group get the Simpsons references.
I think so. Yeah. They only happen occasionally.
Well, they happen more frequently when special guest Susie Hot Rod's on the show, and we're making up for lost time by naming all of our past special guests now at the very end of this. But she sure likes to make Simpsons references.
A lot of most talk about ice cream cake as well.
A good one. Popular food for ultra runners, maybe. I don't know.
At least post running treat for many.
Yeah.
Runners of all types.
In my running world, it's either all just hitting up the juice press at the gym or hitting up the tapas bar in Spain. That's the two kinds of fueling I know now. When I was on the treadmill with the trainers at the gym today, one of them mentioned something about if you goo incorrectly, and she said something about like protein going in your blood. I have no idea and then she left, and then the other trainer like asked me about it because I'm more of a runner than her, and I host a popular running podcast. Yeah, but I was just like, I don't know, I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't know anything. I was like, I don't actually know anything.
I mean, that's quite slanderous. I've never heard such a thing, and I don't know that it's that it holds much weight in the scientific world. This theory.
Well, I'm glad you're saving our ass a little bit legally right now by immediately attaching that disclaimer to whatever nonsense I was just saying.
Yeah, and if you are concerned about this issue with goo, you can always consider Untapped, our possible future goo sponsor.
Right. Possible future sponsor, Untapped. What are they called? Vermont, New England.
Untapped Vermont. Yeah, the maple syrup in little goo. Just
bring a glass container of maple syrup on your runs and take some of that. Or you could always just bring an oat bar, maybe made by potential future sponsor Bobo's. We haven't mentioned them in like 20 episodes.
Yeah.
We're still playing the
That's
long
right.
game, the long distance game for sponsorship, courtship.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, that Untapped Vermont coffee flavored one is just a wonderful running treat.
yeah, just out there with a flask full of coffee flavored maple syrup.
I think I've oddly said the word treat about 3 or 4 times in this episode. Not
It's
a
that-
word I use often.
It's that kind of episode. Well, it's a very special addition to the Power Motion Picnic Hour. Bringing new terms and old sponsors and old special guests back into the fold.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, I guess, I mean, that's probably all we got, right? That's a lot we just jammed in at the end.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to grade everyone's papers. I can't wait to post the results. I can't wait to find out if Stuart Murdoch and Evan Chabet are listeners. And until next time.
Onward.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour, your favorite of the few, with a mile of opinions that we'll gladly share with you. This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour, you deserve nothing less. The Power Motion Picnic Hour, sometimes a special guest. Say your name, special guest.
Chadd Cosse.
This is the Power